as we dive into discussions about relationships, at RelateWell, we want you to live well, love well, and lead well. This webinar is sponsored by Account on Misty, owned by Miss Misty Marcatoni. I don't think she's with us on the call today, but shout out to her. Um, for those of you who are new to the RelateWell Institute, maybe you were referred to us by a friend, say, hey, check out those people. The gentleman there with the glasses, the black rimmed glasses, is Dr. Richard Marks. He is the founder and CEO of the RelateWell Institute. And my name is Miko Page, and I am the Chief Operating Officer. And our vision is to empower and transform for individuals to be able to transform into the people that God has called you to be. We equip you with the skills and tools you need to be healthy and mature in your relationships. So as we travel this webinar together talking about relationships, please feel free to leave questions in the chat. Now, we have questions that have been submitted, and so we're going to answer those questions first. But if we have a time at the end, we would be more than happy to address the questions in the chat. Also, please encourage us as we communicate with you. We really want this to be more of a conversation. So utilize your icons in the chat feature, high fives, thumbs up, things like that. If you have a question
Thumbs
about
down.
something or thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
If you have a question about something that we're talking about, Dr. Marks and I will be monitoring the chat, and so we'll try to acknowledge those comments if we can. Okay. Now, please, also, we're going to kick off our time together with a quote. I am a fan of quotes because I think so much can be learned from a good quote, depending on your season of life or how you look at it. And so last month, Dr. Mark shared one of his favorite quotes. So I get to share one of my favorite quotes with you all today. And it is by Dean Graziosi. I think I pronounced his name improperly. I'm so sorry, Dean. Okay. But here is the quote: people will learn from you, listen to you, love you, buy from you, and hire you when they feel you understand them, not when they understand you. That resonates so much with me because of the work that we do. One of the areas that we teach people is how to be a great listener. Listen to understand, not to respond, right? When people feel heard and understood, they feel loved and valued. And at the end of the day, I might not agree with you. That's okay. But I absolutely can respond in a way that lets you know that I understand and value you as a person. And so we're all about that here at the RelateWell Institute. Any thoughts on that quote, Dr. Marks?
Nope, you said enough about it.
Boom, boom, got it. Okay, now, everyone, you want to stay to the end. Why? Because we have put together a special offer just for you. It is not available to the people that registered and didn't show up. It is only available to the people that showed up and stayed to the end. So I'm excited to share that with you. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to dive right into our first question. How do you handle issues with a partner that has ADHD? So, Dr. Marks, I'm going to kick that to you. Maybe you can, we've heard the term ADHD, but from your clinical training, can you give us some insight into what is that diagnosis? What does that behavior look like? And then we'll talk about how to handle issues when your partner has ADHD.
So one of the things I told Miko, everybody, is don't give me the questions ahead of time. I don't want to know them because I am better on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard the question, something part of me went, And here's where it comes from. It's my personal opinion, and I believe I'm right, but I'm not saying I am right. So if you take that with goodwill, all right? Mm-hmm. I believe that people give too much power to psychiatric diagnoses. You give too much power to it. Because whether you have ADHD or not, you still have to learn to communicate well. You still have to learn some level of emotional regulation. That is true. If they truly have adult ADHD, well then you monitor it through medication. At the same time, though, you can't give people the excuse that, oh, it's my ADHD. No, it isn't, because you have some level of control. And you notice what I said, some level. And so I am not in the camp of psychologists that says, oh, they have this, so now they're going to be a victim to it. I don't agree with that, because there's too many examples of people with ADHD who do listen well, who do communicate well, who do have learned those skills. So if we're going to say that ADHD is the problem, then everyone with ADHD should never be able to regulate, should never be able to communicate well. But it isn't true. Some do, some don't, that have ADHD. So I'm in the camp that says, well, if I'm going to give my my diagnosis that much power over me, I think that says something about my inability and willingness to want to grow, mature, regardless of whether I have it or not. So that's the way I would answer it there. Now, if someone has it, I would say to them, great, I got you. I got that you have it. Why don't you take 5 minutes and let's come back and use a skill or a tool then? And in RelateWell, we teach skills and tools. Give them something structured to do that allows their brain to focus. And that's one of the great things about skills and tools. It forces the brain to focus. Mm-hmm. So that's my answer to that one. Mm-hmm. May not be popular, but that is my answer.
Mm-hmm. You know, Dr. Marks, we in our RelateWell Conversations family, we work with people who have all sorts of diagnoses. And one of the things that I've learned is, regardless of whatever diagnosis you may have, mental, emotional, psychological, you still have to be able to engage in healthy relationships. That person's brain still has to learn how to relate well and love maturely. And so one of the things that I love about our work is anybody from any background, whatever your diagnosis, age, stage of life, can utilize our skills and tools that basically keep the guardrails up so that you operate with maturity when you're engaging with other people. So just wanted to throw that out there because part of when Dr. Marks created our curriculum, he understood how the brain works and functions. And so we took the biology of the brain into account. So, all right, next question. Okay, after 30 years of marriage with very little emotional vulnerability or intimacy, they both live in fear of rejection from the other. We are more like friends with benefits. How do we get over the fear that has built up over time, the lack of emotional intimacy? He's craved for sex for he also craves sex for security. However, I've hated sex. It's disconnecting to me without the emotional intimacy. So we have a married couple, 30 years, very little emotional vulnerability. He craves sex. She doesn't like it because for her, there's no
more
emotional
mechanical
connection.
Yeah, it's more mechanical.
Yes.
You want to take it or you want me to?
You kick us off on this one.
All right. So there's kind of different pieces in this. So
I know that's what my brain was.
There's been a lack of connection. Let's talk. There's been a lack of connection. That says something about one or both's ability to bond or knowing how to bond and attach. Because the way the brain bonds and attaches is by knowing, by vulnerability, being emotionally open. And when we're not emotionally open, vulnerable, a deep level of knowing each other, then you will experience what you have in 30 years. Because attachment happens through emotional openness and physical closeness. And when people are in conflict or in fear, then the brain shuts down and distances emotionally and distances physically. It's real simple to the brain how it works. So the question then around fear is actually simple as well. Now, let me say, though the answer is simple, doing it can be challenging. All right. So the answer to fear is risk. But you have to define first what's the fear. See, for me, I lived in fear all my life. Growing up in a abusive home, shocked with the cow prod, always put down, those kind of things. And so I always feared rejection. I feared the loss of love. I feared abandonment. And so I wouldn't deal with things. I would ignore things. I stayed away. I appeased Luella in our marriage. Why? In case she rejected me. But here's what I realized: the longer I lived in fear, I couldn't live in love. I couldn't live in intimacy because fear is going to be the enemy to intimacy. So I had to literally sum up courage and risk rejection and risk being abandoned and take a step forward. There's now you don't take a too big of a step, but you do have to take a step forward. There's a proverb. It's a Jewish proverb, as a matter of fact. It says, "No one tests the depths of a river with both feet. You put one toe in." So whoever wrote that question, I would say, you guys need to start taking a step to put a toe in the water, risk rejection, because here's if I take the risk, and here's the remedy: you both need to be emotionally safe for the other. When I am emotionally safe, then Luella's more likely to take risk. When she's emotionally safe, I am more likely to take risk. So the remedy for each of you is become an emotionally safe person. That means don't judge, don't criticize. If they say something you don't agree with, keep your mouth shut. Listen, understand. Don't force your opinion over theirs. At that point, you're saying, I don't care about your opinion. Your perspective doesn't matter, mine does. So I think that's I've kind of answered it in the general, the 1,000-foot view. We need to know a lot more more in the weeds of that. I
Yeah.
would say also, if you're stuck there and you don't know how to get unstuck, give me or Miko a call
Mhm.
offline, and we do coaching, and we can coach you guys on how to get unstuck and move you forward.
To add what you said about a very practical step that you can take in becoming an emotionally safe person is we do not really, I think, understand the power of our tone. Okay. Not, research has been done. 93% of communication is nonverbal. It's our tone, okay, and our body language, not the content. The content, what we said, is only 8%. So if you think about that, I could say something that is true, but my tone could communicate disrespect, disregard, ill will. And this is the other thing about tone. The person speaking, you're a bad judge of your own tone. So I'll never forget Chris and I, one of our first heated conversations, okay, within the first like year of our marriage. And he said, Miko, why are you yelling at me? I said, I'm not yelling at you. And then I was like, oh, wait, I think I am. So, I didn't know that my tone was coming across as rude or disrespectful. So be mindful of your tone when you communicate, because tone can communicate love and respect, or it could communicate disrespect.
And this goes, and she got more into the weeds than I did, and I appreciate that. Let's come back above the weeds a little bit. Tone will create fear and safety. So if your tone is unhealthy, condescending, whatever it is, facial features, all that lets a person's brain know that you're safe emotionally or not.
Mhm.
So all this is about emotional safety, so we can build intimacy.
Which can build emotional intimacy, which can lead to physical intimacy. Because it sounds like, just reading her question, there's this link in her mind that, there's this disconnect. She's not getting the vulnerability and the emotional intimacy, and so thusly it's created this feeling in her that, okay, I don't like sex, because she's like, I don't have the emotional intimacy. That was the last part of her question. So when you are emotionally connected, you are more inclined to want to be physically intimate and close.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is the I'm going to go by what the question said, so I don't want to interpret anything beyond that. His need for sex helps him feel secure. That
Mm-hmm.
is a core relational need, is security.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this in RelateWell. It's one of the 10 relational needs. So you have to realize he is reaching out to you emotionally through the sex. But because you don't feel the level of closeness that you're wanting, you withhold, which makes him feel more insecure
And
with you.
disconnected. Mm-hmm.
So what you guys are in, you're in a vicious cycle right now that pits you all against each other. And the end result, the outcome is less bonding, less attachment, further disconnection.
Yeah.
That's why I said coaching would help here.
Yes, yes, both of you, having both of you in the room to have the conversation. We are more than welcome to serve you in that way if you like. Okay, next question. How do two extreme opposites people, I guess they mean in personality, manage to have a healthy marriage without building resentment? So we are two very different people. How do we have a healthy marriage without there being resentment?
So Miko, you know my bride of 41 years.
Yes,
Are we not very, very different?
yes.
Here's what everybody needs to understand. Personality differences do not predict distress and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They don't. Because it doesn't matter your personality differences, you still both have to connect because the brain has to connect. You still have
Yeah.
to bond. You still have to communicate well. So, regardless of your personality differences, and my wife is very different than me. I'm more than nurture. She's more like, you're bleeding emotionally on the carpet. Why don't you clean it up? I'm like, but they're bleeding on it. We're very different. I had to learn some of her strengths. She had to learn some of mine. So ultimately, I think that when you look at like the book, The Color Code, which is a personality test, that guy said, healthy people know the strengths of their personalities and the challenges of their personality style. But he also said this, and I think he's absolutely right about this. Mature people develop the strengths of all four types of personality styles. All right. And so if you stay only in your personality and look at the problem as a personality style, then you will always have problems because you're blaming it on a person's personality style. It isn't. It's how you let your personality style dictate how you relate, how you communicate. You can regulate that part of you and learn to be more graceful, to speak up more, to be more compassionate. That you can transcend any personality style into what we call humility, respect, empathy, and goodwill. Because every personality style can practice those fundamental relational values that we talk about. So I'm a mindset that goes, don't give the power to the style. It's that you're letting the style become the point of focus. I would say, it's not the style, is that y'all don't know how to yet. Because if you learned how to, whether you're a lion personality or a golden retriever, we both have to learn how to communicate. We both had to learn how to bond. We both had to learn how to emotionally regulate. We both had to learn those things, even though we're very different personality styles. Mm-hmm. So that's my answer to that.
Chris and I, so we're the inverse of Dr. Marks and his wife, Luella. My husband is more like Dr. Well, no, yeah, well, no, the same. Yep. My husband is more like Chris in personality, and I'm more like Luella. And it took me a while to understand that the things that irked me about him were who part of his personality, just who he was. But they were also the things about him that I really appreciated, and that learning how to appreciate and value what he brought to the relationship that I didn't possess or have. It was very eye-opening, and it's very freeing and liberating. And so we've learned how to let each other be. I think he did a better job of that in the early years of our marriage than I did, to be perfectly honest. But we teach you some specific skills and tools to help you navigate Just, when it just comes down to we are just different people. I will say this. I heard this and I thought it was so profound. It was a therapist that is nationally known. She has a show that is aired on national television. And she said that for years, she thought that the key to a healthy marital relationship was compatibility. Okay. And she said what she's learned is that it is not compatibility. It is your ability to be able to love someone who is different than you. Let that, we're gonna sit that right there, okay? Just your ability to be able to love someone who is different than you. Okay, we're gonna sit that there, marinate on that. Okay, all right.
Isn't that the essence of emotional maturity?
Yes, yes,
Isn't it? It's the essence of emotional maturity. Is to love people who are different than you, different cultural backgrounds,
yes.
different in whatever way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what God calls us to, right?
Yes,
To love
absolutely.
beyond ourselves, regardless of the differences. That requires
Absolutely.
a lot of emotional maturity to do that.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And
It
a
sure
lot of
does.
humility, because you
Hmm.
can't become emotionally mature without humility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, our next question, and I will kick this one off. Is it possible to date while having a chronic illness? Now, they didn't give me any more information, and so it there are several ways I think we could address this question, but this is the way that my brain interpreted the question. And so, Dr. Marks, you may be able to give a different perspective on
Well,
on the
I,
interpretation
I,
of
I
this
would just
question.
answer the question. I don't
So,
interpret anything.
so
So
it
the
says, is
answer
it
is
possible?
yes.
So I was like, yes, that was my answer. Yes.
Sure.
If the underlying question is, so maybe it's the undertone is, it should I disclose that? Like I have a chronic illness. Should that be disclosed to someone I am dating? And so, because my thought was, are they saying would that hinder me from dating if I, first date, hey, my name is Sue and I have this illness. So my thought was, that wouldn't be information I would share on the first date or the second date. It would be, I would say, operate in wisdom as you get to know each other, because really you're getting to know each other, right? And so if you're getting to know each other after a couple of dates and you feel comfortable, hey, we may be friends, then that would, I think, would be more the time to share. Well, by the way, da 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 da, but it wouldn't be something I would just share in the very first meeting or date. That's my thought. So
I
did
would
you?
be a little different.
Okay.
Um,
We welcome differences here. Yes.
yes, we do. Um, and again, it's just how my brain works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're putting yourself out there to date someone, then you're basically saying that I am willing to consider this as a possibility that's going to move somewhere. So I always frame everything through HREG, which leads me to the conversation around integrity. Integrity would be that you're upfront with them ahead of time. By the way, I just want you to know I do have 4 STDs. By the way, I want you to know I am HIV positive. By the way, I've got a cancer, and I'm not sure if I'm going to live in the next 6 months. That's integrity, because to not share those things with someone is to lead them astray, to let them think that something's not true or may not be there. And so I always like to frame it in around integrity. So yeah, you might not say anything in the first 1 or 2 dates because you're trying to figure out, is this something that you want? But when you get to that place that I think this could go somewhere for me, then with integrity, in my mind, in integrity, you need to say, listen, if we're going to go further, I need you to know some things. It may dictate whether you want to be with me or not, and I'm okay with that. But to have integrity with you, I need to share some things with you. And to me, that integrity makes you beautiful, makes you handsome. That integrity says this person is worth investing in to move something forward. If them having cancer doesn't matter, or if they have an STD doesn't matter. There's a lot of people with STDs, gotten them from histories of promiscuous, whatever, and they married and have great marriages. even though one or both have an STD.
Are you saying you would share that on a first date initial meeting?
If I sense that I wanted to go somewhere, then yes. If I'm not sure I want it, if I'm just putting my toe in the water, probably not. That's what I said. For me, the qualifier is when I realize that I have an interest in this person and I want to move it forward for me, then you owe that to them.
Yes. Okay.
If you're not sure you want to do it, then don't tell them. But after one or two visits, you should
Yeah,
probably know if you want to
which is
keep
what
this
I
up.
said around the
Have integrity with them.
second
Because
meeting, second date.
to not tell someone is a lack of integrity.
Yes.
Because in that person's mind, I've been wasting time if you had told me this earlier. And they're angry at you now because they're going to feel deceived. They're going to feel deceived by you. You don't want that happening. So I like how Benita put it there in the chat section. Transparency does matter. And I would say it this way, it's integrity. It's integrity.
Got it.
So
yes.
Those are my thoughts about that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, next question. How do you restore communication and trust when there was a past history of manipulation and gaslighting with verbal, emotional, and financial abuse? How to restore communication and trust when there was a past history of manipulation, gaslighting with verbal, emotional, and financial abuse. Well, to me, there's the assumption that I guess both parties are seeking to get past the past, because if the person that was manipulating, gaslighting, being verbally and emotionally and financially abusive, if that behavior is still continuing, then it's almost, you're not going to be able to restore trust. Now,
yes, because it's still a current pattern.
It's still a current pattern. Exactly. Now, if they have turned away, repented, chosen not to engage in that sort of behavior anymore, now we have an opportunity to build trust and restore communication going forward. But if that person is still in those patterns of behavior, then you're not going to be able to restore trust. But let's say they are. So let's say they no longer engage in gaslighting and manipulation and are financially abusive. Okay, then what do we do? What do we do from here to restore communication and build trust?
And ultimately, you have to forgive, and they have to become trustworthy in those areas. And that means coaching or counseling. They keep the checkbook open, so there's openness and transparency about what they're doing financially, how they treat you. No more gaslighting, no more manipulating. If they do, because it's been a pattern for years, they catch themselves, own it, and ask for forgiveness right away. That builds trust.
Yeah.
When a person creates a self-awareness that they're monitoring themselves now. That's the real thing. Is I had to learn to regulate myself. I didn't want Luella telling me I need to regulate myself. She saw me doing it on my own. That's how she knew she could trust me. I started doing those things on my own. I started turning my life around because I was transforming the inside, the inside of me. So I think that's a good answer for that in the general sense. If it's in the past, then forgive. And what do you have to do to create structure in the relationship so that there's accountability in those areas for the future?
One of the statements that I heard you share in an intensive when we were working with a couple and one spouse had lost the trust of the other spouse, fairly rightly so because of their behavior. And you told the spouse that had lost trust, your job is not to get him or her to trust you. Your job is just to become a trustworthy person.
Exactly.
So it's up to both of you, in particular the spouse that has lost the trust, to become a trustworthy person, and that is changing their behavior, consistency over time. They're not their behavior and their words and deeds don't always leave a question mark, that they are upfront and forthright. So there are actually 8 components to trust. We won't go into that now, but we teach that in our work. And if you lose trust in any one of those areas, then you've lost trust. So, okay. The other thing, real quick, Dr. Mark said something. We were having a conversation about 3 weeks ago, and you were talking about the years where you were chronologically an adult, but you were emotionally a
A
child.
child.
And this was something that you hadn't said it like this before and so it really caught my ear. You said utilizing the skills and the tools that I learned forced you into acting and behaving like an emotionally mature adult, even though you hadn't gotten there yet.
Yep.
And I thought that was so powerful and then I thought back to our work and our skills and tools is they force you, if you allow them to, if you utilize them to be an emotional mature person or to act in that way, even though maybe you haven't gotten there yet. And then just the consistency over time. And
Yes,
eventually that'll,
because I use the skills and tools as I valued them, I used them. Eventually, my brain shaped itself to become that mature adult. It took a little bit of time, but every day was a transformation. I mean, it was a journey of transforming. So that's why I'm a big proponent of skills and tools. Why? Well, you may be immature. I was a child emotionally, but when I started learning skills and tools and implementing them right away, in that moment, I was an emotional child acting like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and things got better quicker.
Mm-hmm.
They got
Yes.
better quicker. So I'm grateful for the skills and tools.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, next question. The question is, I have a sister-in-law who likes to make subtle but very hurtful jabs. The question is how do I respond to her? Now, this is a little back history. It says, I see her only a few times of the year, so I've ignored her, but it's annoying. She will say something like, that's what you were like when talking about me with one of my children. She'll always bring up my past. She really does not know me anymore because she is not a part of my life currently on a constant basis. So this is a sister-in-law who knew her back when. She's always bringing up past behavior, and evidently she's making comments that are hurtful and little subtle jabs. And she only sees her a couple of times of the year. So the question is, how can I respond to my sister-in-law?
You want me to take that one?
Yes.
All righty. Okay.
I got several things twirling, so you go first.
You know me, I like to be kind of succinct and simple. Sound bites because all the TV I've done over the years.
Yes.
The answer is simple. You set a time to sit down and talk with her. Say, listen, I notice you do this, and yes, in the past I've been this way, but I notice you make statements like this. Can I ask you a question about that? And if she says yes, what have I done to hurt you? What have I done to earn you insult to me or putting me down in front of the kids? Can you help me understand what I've done to you that has, in your mind, earned that? And if you ask that question, don't get defensive if they tell you what it is. Because if you ask someone to give you feedback about why you are, see, it's really easy to blame them rather than find out, did I do something that created that? That's maturity. Did I do anything to create that? You see, it's like, you've heard me say it thousands of times, Miko. Okay, you've been around me a long time. But, when Lori told me that the way Luella was around me, I created because of how I was. And then I said, I saw the truth in that statement. Oh, Luella was just doing those things in the moment because of how I was being in a moment. And when I saw the truth of it, I said, well, and how do I undo that? She said, change who you are. If you change yourself and you don't talk to her, she doesn't know you changed. That's a knowledge deficit. She knows you to be this way. She doesn't know you to be the new way. Let her see that new you. Introduce that person to her and let her see the new you. And if she keeps it up,
Come
then
on,
that's
yeah.
her character. That's her
Mm-hmm.
character. And that then puts you in a position to decide whether you want to be around them or not.
Yes.
So
And,
that's
and so,
my answer to it.
In to add to that, if she's been around you enough to know who you are today, but she's still making those, as you say, they say it's subtle, hurtful jabs, then again, that speaks to her character, and then that conversation becomes more like, if you ask her that question, what have I done? And she's like, no, but that's how you used to be, and da da da. Then I would just say, you know what? I appreciate the fact that we have history together, but I would prefer that you not make comments about my past because that's not who I am today. And in particular, around my kids, that's hurtful to me. I value our relationship. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't make those comments referring to my past anymore. If there's a question you have, you want to share something with me, please do so. But going forward, I would prefer that you not make those types of comments. So, yep. Okay. All right. I thought this was an interesting question. Okay, and it was rather lengthy, so I shrunk it so that we could have time to discuss it. Okay, so we have someone who has been friends with five ladies from college. These ladies have been together for over 12 years as friends. The person that sent the email said she noticed one of the friends, just she no longer connected with her, just their values and their life were different, but they still as a group would get together and hang out. But there was one of them that she just no longer vibed with. So after much prayer and reflection, she decided that she needed to end the friendship with that one person out of the group. Okay. She said she was very respectful about it, and whatnot. She noticed that the other members of the group started distancing themselves. They didn't want to talk about the situation. They expressed their shock. And so she now wants to know, how do I move forward in a grounded and emotional healthy way with the remaining friends, especially when they may be uncomfortable around me, avoidant, or attached to the group status quo?
There's too many unknowns, and I don't read into things ever, and
Mm-hmm.
just don't do that as a way of being, unless I feel like I have to. This one, there's too many unknowns, so I'm going to just, if that person's on the call, I'm going to just kind of speak from the top of my head. Number one, did we ever contact that lady? Said, hey, I noticed you've been treating me a certain way or distancing. Is there an issue that you have with me? Because if there is, I'd like to clear it up. Was there some ground? I mean, the person just started doing that. Something happened. Something happened. Find out. Maybe they just said, I don't want to be around your kind of person anymore. Well, that's what happened. But find out if there is something that, I've always said maturity is to assume that I created something before I assume they created something.
Mm-hmm.
Look in the mirror first before you point a finger.
She said that what happened was, she said
They
she's felt
drifted apart.
different values,
Yeah,
lifestyle choices, and patterns of behavior.
and that's just differences.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have the differences, still have a relationship in the whole group. But in this case, the differences became personal.
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Mm-hmm.
And when the differences become personalized, then you are going to affect the whole,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what happened to the other ladies.
Because she
They
said they
felt
had group
they
think. It
felt
was
the
like they did
tension
everything.
in the
Mm-hmm.
us. They felt the
Mm-hmm.
tension
Yep.
in the us. They felt the
Mm-hmm.
breakdown of an usness in the group.
Yes.
So now they're put in a position in their mind, possibly to have to choose. And they don't want to choose.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to have to choose this or that. But that's what that would do to them, is a natural consequence. And maybe they chose both of you. Maybe they chose one or the other because based on their knowledge of what of both of y'all differences. So there's just so many unknowns. Those are just things that off the top of my head that I'm thinking about. There's just a lot of things I would like, I'd like to know, if the group broke away, that would make sense because they're feeling attention. My gut tells me they would feel like they have to make a choice. They don't want to choose. They want to be friends with both.
Well, and then that would put the person that asked the question in the position of, okay, if I really can't be friends with the person that I broke off the friendship with, but they come as a group, then am I willing to disconnect myself from the group entirely? Am I okay with
Well,
that?
eventually you'd have to,
Mm-hmm.
because if the other person that you're at odds with is still a part of the group and connected to
Yes.
the group,
Yep.
well, then you're coming into that saying, I'm going to be friends with them, but not you. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to like that because then again, that puts them in a position to have to choose. And
Mm-hmm.
when one person puts another person, a group of people in a position to have to choose, they tend to not want to choose you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of a pattern of human behavior. So there's a lot of dynamics there at play, but it sounds like a lot of communicating needs to happen and understanding needs to happen on all parts so that the group can come back together as a cohesive whole.
If that's possible,
Yeah.
as you say it.
Well,
Yeah.
when you look at group dynamics, you go through the stages of the group development, like in a counseling group or whatever,
Uh-huh.
storming, norming, conforming. And so the stages of group development, the group is in a crisis, all right? So it's storming,
Mm-hmm.
can it conform and then make the new way a new norm?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but those are group dynamics.
All right. Next question. Exactly how do you set boundaries?
Is it considered? I'm reading a thing here. Is it
Uh-oh, you
considered
got somebody
rude,
in the chat.
stalking, or pushy to expect a response of any kind from a text, even if it's one-way communication, meaning you make a statement? I'm not sure I understand is it considered rude, stalking, or pushy to expect a response of any kind from a text? I would say yes. Here's why. If you text me, I tend to not text back.
He
I
will
don't
call
like
you.
texting. I don't care about texting. And if I text, as Miko knows, it's going to be a sentence. After that, she gets a phone call. I don't like texting. And so I don't check my text that much. I really don't because I don't like texting. I'm still old school. Right. I want to talk. My kid's like, text me, dad. No, no, I'm calling. I want to hear your voice. I want voice fluctuations and inflection. I want to hear your voice. I don't want to read what you have to say. I want to hear it. So now, in the etiquette of texting, then yeah, you make a response, even if it's just a thumbs up, or smiley face, something that says "I got it," right? Or at least that they're responding to. Because typically, they got it because it says delivered. And some systems show you that they saw it, right? So, but if you're pushing them to respond to you, that would be disrespectful in my mind. That would be disrespectful. If they don't respond to you, then they just don't, you know.
Okay. All right. How to set boundaries? That was the question. How do you set boundaries?
Get the book Boundaries and read it.
By Dr.
That is a
Henry Cloud.
huge, 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 huge topic.
Mm-hmm.
But the simple answer is you set them. Define what the boundaries are that you need to set in what areas of your life, and you set them. And then you stick to them. Boundaries need to be fluid. Sometimes you may have to change it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, they're pretty set. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So you determine what it is you need for to be healthy in your relationships, and you set those boundaries with people. You say,
Mm-hmm.
listen, if you continue to yell and scream and cuss at me, I will remove myself from this relationship. If they keep it up, you remove yourself from the relationship. That's setting the boundaries, declaring what the boundary is. Sticking to the boundary is when you're not just when you don't just declare what the boundary is, that's setting the boundary. I declared the boundary is.
Mm-hmm.
I did it with my kids. Here's the boundary. You declare it. Now, if they can either respect it or not respect it. If they don't respect it, then you have to decide what you want to do with it.
There was an area in my life that came up. Sometimes you don't know that you need to set a boundary until it presents itself. So I noticed there was a theme in some of my relationships where people would do something and that would bother me. And there was that consistency. Every time a person did this thing that bothered me. And I realized, oh, Miko, that's important to you. You value that. And so them asking X or Y is bumping up against what's important to you in your value system. You need to set a boundary here for yourself in relationships where this comes up. So, sometimes it develops. If you notice a theme, like this thing constantly agitates me when people do this or say this, maybe that's an indication that maybe you need to set a boundary there. It could be whatever it is. But that might be a thought. So, okay. All right. Last
And
question. So go
get
ahead.
the book Boundaries by
Yes.
Cloud and Townsend. Excellent book.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. If someone on the call has a question, I think we can get it in. So put it in the chat. Okay, put it in the chat. Let's see. Okay. So I'm gonna ask this one question, and then if you got a question, we might be able to squeeze it in. Okay. The question says, I want to be intentional in my communications and frame my conversations to fit the need for whoever's speaking. I want to mean what I say and say what I mean. What are the best practices for being more intentional with communicating with people?
You want to take that? I don't think I understand it.
Yeah, okay. So they're saying, what are the best practices for being more intentional with communicating to people? I want to mean what I say and not have the need to retract statements. So to me, it's almost like they're
Mm.
saying they maybe speak before they think, and maybe they need to slow down. Your before you speak, process, and then intentionally communicate. That way you're not having to backtrack.
If anybody, and Miko knows this about me, so does my family and those who know me well, I am very particular about language. Language is important, and words matter. And if you use a word that isn't what you're trying to say, people don't know what you're trying to say. They do know what you
What you
said.
say. Mm-hmm.
And so I got in trouble a lot in my early days in my graduate work because Dr. Dow would answer a question of mine. And I go, that's not what I said. He goes, that's exactly what you said. Well, that's not what I meant. He said, well, that's not, I'm not a mind reader, Mr. Marks. You need to learn to articulate accurately. I'm like, oh, he's right. So I began to listen to myself, Miko, and what I was saying to make sure what I was saying was accurate to what I wanted to communicate. Words matter. I also found that that was my immaturity in the old days. I didn't think about what I was saying. I just spouted off. And I went, well, that's not what I meant. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not what I meant. It is what I said. And what I learned was maturity is about congruency. What you mean and what you say have to be congruent on over time. That means you have to become an expert. This is why I started to develop my language skills. I began to think about what I wanted to say before I said it to make sure what I was saying was accurate to what I wanted to convey. So words do matter. I'm a real stickler for that, but I believe it to be very true because words do matter. So that's where I tell people, hey, one of the greatest gifts you give yourself is a good vocabulary and increase the words that you have. I think there's there's a lot of health in that. It's like people who cuss. I grew up around cussing, you know? People, the person cussed like a sailor. No,
You were a
no.
sailor.
You learn how to cuss from a sailor, apparently. So the sailor is a role model for you. You're just cussing like a sailor because they are a role model. So don't put it on the sailor. It's you. Apparently, their sailor was a role model. So, we sailors like being role models, right? I grew up with that. But then I came to realize in my own transformation journey, if I confine myself to those kinds of words when I'm angry, I heard it said this way: cursing is a feeble mind trying to assert itself strongly. It's a feeble mind trying to assert itself strongly. I think there's truth in that. Because there's thousands of words you could use, and you confine yourself to 3 or 4 or 5. There's a lot of other words you can do, and you can use. Now, I admit there's sometimes those words do have a greater impact. You've seen that.
Just tell them yes.
Yeah. So, sometimes you may need to use a word for impact. I get that, but that would be strategic.
Yes.
Communication has to be strategic. And when you read the book by Jay Haley on strategic communication and all those kind of things, you learn a lot of these kind of things. But I do think the language is important. Words are important. They have to. You must be accurate in your language and words. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, I just noticed the question that goes back to on the text thing there. Let me go back up to it real quick. Mm-hmm. Terry wrote, if you don't get a text response, is it wrong to follow up with that person? No. The answer, Terry, is no. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
Right.
That just, we can assume they didn't get it, didn't see it. Like, hey, you follow up me, probably thinking I didn't see it. Probably right. Or if I did see it, I didn't respond to it because I don't do texts. Mm-hmm. And so if you responded up, I was like, oh crap, I need to respond to them. So I'd say, hey, call me. I would say text, call me. Here's my cell phone. Yeah. That's what I would do.
All right. Okay, we got like two more minutes. Anybody have any questions on the chat before I share?
Or if not, you and feel free, take your video off and get your mute off. How has this been a value to you tonight? What would you say your takeaways are from tonight? Anything for anybody? We'd love to get what your input has been.
Please feel free to turn on your videos and your audio.
Yeah.
Practical everyday solutions. Practical everyday advice.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Anyone else?
I also like the discussion about the emotional maturity and the referencing of the book about boundaries, because that's an issue that I have had to deal with some of my family members. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Deidre?
Yes.
Are you married?
I am.
All right. Some people will tell you, get the book Boundaries in Marriage. Don't do it.
Okay.
Just get the book Boundaries. Because how marketing is? Oh, we'll do boundaries in marriage and boundaries in the bathroom and boundaries in the shower, right? Forget all that. Just get the book Boundaries.
Yes, I will.
And study boundaries. You could make the application in those parts of your marriage or to parenting or got it?
Yes,
just get that fundamental one, because the fundamental one is the best of them.
Okay.
That's my psychologist hat speaking, not my pastor hat.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, ma'am. Hey, Michelle, thank you. Words matter.
Yes. Okay. All right. So mark your calendars.
I would like to say something.
Oh,
yes, ma'am.
Please, Miss Bonita. Yeah, okay. Bonita Middleton I'm putting you on blast. She's my auntie. Hey, auntie.
Hi, darling. I wanted to say that I hope that in some of your future webinars that you will have a 5-minute period of interaction, because some of the questions, I felt like I could answer all of the questions. I'm probably the oldest member in this webinar tonight, but I would have liked to have had an opportunity to speak on some of the questions that were given.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Just a time for interaction, you know, if that's allowable.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank you.
that suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. We've got 4 minutes. So I'm going to
Miko,
share.
that was your aunt, so you better listen to her.
I know.
There you go, Benita. I'm standing up for you there, girl.
Okay, everyone. Mark your calendars for our next RelateWell conversations, February the 3rd. Same time, same place, February the 3rd. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you because this is the offer that we created for you today. For the people that hung in there and said, we're going to stay to the end and get all the relationship advice. So this is our special offer to you where, let me move some of my little screens here. Here we go. Okay, so what do you get? You get 1 hour of private coaching. Okay, so 1 hour of private coaching. We bill at $175 per hour, and we do not accept insurance, and we don't make apologies for that. But you get all of us when we show up for an hour. Okay, so you get to pick our brains, and that could be a single person coming or a married person. It doesn't matter. You just get an hour of coaching. You get the Values to Relate Well ebook. It's $14.99. I want you to think about it like this. In that book, there are thousands of dollars worth of coaching in that book. It is, it's worth it just to get the book. Okay. So you get both of those, which would normally be $189.99 just for the next 24 hours. And only for those of you who stayed on the call, you get that for $35. I mean, you can't even get a good dinner with an appetizer, a dessert, and a drink for $35. Okay. So $35, scan that QR code to register. You're going to get an email that tells you how to take advantage of your coaching session and to get the book. Okay. So this will be open until tomorrow around 7:30 p.m. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that you found the link in for the call tonight. That email is mine and it comes directly to my desk. Okay. All right. Next, please follow us on social media. And if you haven't signed up for us to stay connected with you, like through our newsletters, go to our webpage, RelateWellInstitute.com, and click the contact, stay connected button. Fill it out so that you can stay in the know when we have special events, when we launch our app later on this year. We've got date nights coming up, Chick-fil-A date nights. Dr. Marks, do you have those dates? The 19th and
19th and the 26th. 19th,
yes.
if you're in Jacksonville, we'll be at Holiday Hill Church. The next one will be up near the airport with the airport. Chick-fil-A is at New Berlin Road Church. 6:30 to 8, dinner free, but you have to register at their store's sites. You can find it on Facebook events pages, and you can find it at the RelateWell Facebook page the links to register. You have to register to go because they need to know how much food to prepare.
Yes. And anytime you want to know
is
what
limited.
Yes. Anytime we've gotten great feedback from those events and have grown the number of attendance. I mean, we're getting close to having to turn people away because we can only allow so many. So definitely register early. But if you ever have a question about what's going on with RelateWell Institute, go to our events page on our website. We always post events there. And then also on our Facebook page, we'll have events listed there as well. All right. Well, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. We honor the fact that you chose to spend an hour of your precious time with us. We do not take that for granted. And so we are here to serve you in any way that we can. My email address is the best way to contact me and Dr. Marks. So have a great rest of your evening.
I just saw that Michael Arthur sent a message. It was under a different chat box, whatever. So,
Okay.
Michael, I would tell you, because that's a lot to answer, but at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to sell you a book, and I am because I'm proud of it, I would get our book, The Art of Us. The Art of Us, and it'll answer your question. And I'm not a love language guy. If you want to know why, call me. I'll tell you why. It has to do with neuroscience in the brain, how the brain works versus these metaphors that someone came up with. So I'm not saying don't read the book Love Languages, but don't depend on it completely, because the brain was designed by God to do more than just that. So anyways, that's a thought for you, Mike. I hope that helps.
This is the book. When you go to our website and you go to the store, you'll see an e-copy and a hard copy. So you can get the hard copy or the electronic copy that you can read on your Kindle or as a PDF. And then the values to RelateWell is also on our store ebook or hard copy. Okay. But you'll get this with the offer.
Do you have any books that are on Audible?
We haven't made it to Audible yet. Not yet.
Okay. It's coming. It's coming.
You got
Not
it.
yet. But I will say this. If you download our PDFs, our ebooks, and if you have an iPhone, there is an app on your iPhone for free that will read the text on your iPad or on your iPhone. So it's a back door. I know, I figured it out. So it's a free way so you can listen, if you have an iPhone, to listen to text on your screen, and it'll read it to you.
Okay, you'll have to tell me about that later. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.